Morning. Um, how y'all doing this morning? Um, Doing praise to the Most High. Thank you for letting me be able to wake up and see another day. Um, Being able to come and enlighten the brothers and sisters on your words, your laws, your prophecies, things to come. Understand things that's to come about. In this video, I came across word of God where Isaiah prophesied the destruction of all the nations. What we read about in Isaiah 14. And when we look at the things what's going on right now, this COVID thing, they're talking about the vaccines that's they trying to bring about with the world. It's talking about bringing fear into the entire world. This talking about global. So when I had came across this scripture, it was but the Most High was prophesied about in the destruction of all nations, because that's what we talk about New World Order. These people that plotted against Israel, keep them from knowing who they are, their history, their culture. Uh, and Basically, they had brought us down to the point, like you say, uh, to a lower self. And they knew that if we were to be in tune with our God, the love that He had for us, they show that He will protect us. So when I came across this, I looked at it. It's talking about a future prophecy about Israel taking the captives who captives we were, about them going into captivity. But I wanted to read up in Isaiah 14 about the fear that these people has plotted to go against Israel. So if you read Isaiah 14, God is talking about the destructions of the global earth. All nations that went against Israel in Psalms 83, the plot against our people, the wickedness and the evil that they did, that the Most High is going to destroy all nations, even ours included. So with that being said, I wanted to start at verse 12. And then I wanted to tell you about Lucifer, because this is what I found out about Lucifer, who Lucifer actually is. It said, "How art thou fallen from heaven, O Lucifer, son of the morning? How art thou cut down to the ground, which did weaken the nations? Thou hast said in thy heart, I will ascend into heaven. I will exalt my throne above the stars of God. I will sit also upon the mount of the congregation in the sides of the north. I will ascend above the heights of the clouds. I will be like the Most High. Yet thou shalt be brought down to hell, to the sides of the pit. They that see thee shall narrowly look upon thee and consider thee, saying, Is this the man that made the earth to tremble, that did shake kingdoms, that made the world as a wilderness and destroyed the cities thereof, that opened not the house of his prisoners? All the kings of the nation, even all of them, lie in glory, everyone in his own house. But thou art cast out of thy grave like an abominable branch, and as the remnant of those that are slain, thrust through with the sword, that go down to the stones of the pit, as a carcass trodden underfoot." Right? So I want to stop right there, right? Because this is talking about the nations that plotted against the people what we got going on right now, people is in fear of this COVID-19 thing, and it's bringing people to a panic that some people get so much irate when people cough and you don't have on a mask. So like the view, like with Whoopi Goldberg, they always talking about like people were stupid. Like, dude, why is it that you don't want to wear a mask? Why is it that, you know what I'm saying, that people is not believing in this thing about COVID? So with this being said, this right here is showing you that these people plotted this. Now watch this in Michael's 2. Right here. Michael's 2, chapter 2. It says, woe to them that devise iniquity and work evil upon their beds. When the morning is light, they practice it because it is in the power of their hand. And they covet fields and take them by violence, and houses and take them away. So they oppress a man in his heart, even a man in his heritage. What we dealing with was people with this thing that's been going on for don't know how long, that Bill Gates in America and we'll say Illuminati just as well plotted this thing about this COVID virus and this vaccine. So the Most High said, woe to them that devise iniquity and work evil upon their beds. When the morning is light, they practice it because it is in the power of their hand. Right now, I want to say, I mean, people is really getting tired of the mask wearing thing. And then people was unsure about the vaccine that's going around, what they talking about, what's going to be implemented in the world. Well, people might be forced to take it. But with this being said, this is talking about the people that has done this. So if you look in Isaiah 14, this is talking about the nations who plotted these things come against the world. And if you look at why the Most High said that he's going to bring down all these nations, because people was panicking about New World Order, this is what the Most High is doing. He's talking about breaking the pride of all these nations. And Israel will be risen again to rule in righteousness. So, with that being said, people, our people were sure about who they are and what the will of the Father is. God tells you that he will protect you. And right now, a lot of people is unclear about what's going on because they don't read the word, to understand the word, to know what's going on in the world and what God is about to do. But what I want to read down here and go back to Isaiah, the 14th chapter, verse 12 and 13. Isaiah prophesied the end times of the world. Not only did Isaiah prophesied the end times, what's going on in the world, but Daniel also had a vision of the same thing of what Isaiah is talking about. And then you have to understand why things is happening the way it's happening. And so right now we're writing about King Ahaz, because if you look at verse 28 in the book of Isaiah chapter 14, say, in the year that King Ahaz died was this burden. Rejoice not thou whole Palestina, because the rod of him that smote thee is broken, for out of the serpent's root shall come forth cockatrice, and his fruit shall be a fiery flying serpent. What this thing was going on was being said right here. This curse that came upon Israel is due to what Ahaz has done in past time. Because people don't understand these, God deals with generational curses. And just because of a person humble himself and is forgiven for his sin, that sin that that person committed is not passed down to the next generation. And this is why when you read Ezekiel 18, it talks about the son not having to follow in the ways of his father doing wickedness. That if he keep the laws of God, that he can be forgiven. So we know, well, a lot of people is unaware that if everybody was to understand and know the law, that those curses would be broken and God would bless our people. People refuse to understand that. That's like when they said karma is a mother. Hey, this curse is passed down from one generation to the next, and it don't stop until all prophecy has been fulfilled, where blessings is given to all the people, and the world is at rest. So right now, I'm writing about the thing about what Ahaz did that was no different than what King Manasseh did, allowing children to pass through the fire, sacrifices unto idols. And man, this is the thing what we dealing with. Even what you talk about with what Manasseh did is the same thing, and this is why Israel went into uh, captivity of Babylon. So this prophecy, what I found up in Isaiah 14, is actually talking about the end time of our people. Because if you look at the first verse, it said, "For the Most High will have mercy on Jacob, and will yet choose Israel, and set them in their own land. And the stranger shall be joined with them, and they shall cleave to the house of Jacob. And the people shall take them and bring them to their place. And the house of Israel shall possess them in the land of the Most High, servants and handmaids, and they shall take them captives who captives they were, and they shall rule over their oppressors. And it shall come to pass in the day that the Most High shall give thee rest from thy sorrow and from thy fear, and from the hard bondage wherein thou wast made to serve, that thou shalt take up this proverb against the king of Babylon, and say, How have the oppressors ceased, the golden city ceased. This was Isaiah prophesying during the Babylonian kingdom about the captivity, which we know that God said everything repeats itself, is just we do not know, which we are not aware, is of an old time, which is new to us. So, with this being said, and we look at this, we see that America is putting fear in the hearts of people to people are being forced to wear masks. And we see that vaccine that is will be implemented, where Washington D.C. made a law that they do not have to have the permission to vaccine children from 11 to 18 years old. This is what America is doing to our people. So, with that being said, when you read this book and this chapter right here, it's talking about what's going on right now, and it's repeating itself from every time Israel was in bondage. Israel was being oppressed. Laws that was made to force people to do whatever it is that the system will was to give to the people, whether they liked it or not. Because if you look at Isaiah 10, it talks about, so woe unto them that make unrighteous decree against thy poor people. And we see this is what's going on with America. Uh, Laws are being enforced. People are being forced to wear masks. Companies, stores that would not allow people to come into businesses without wearing masks. So they even talking about the vaccine that if no one takes this vaccine, that they are not able to fly, they are not be able to buy, sell, or workers jobs refuse employees to work because they refuse to take the vaccine. And this is what America is trying to do, is put fear in the hearts of the people to control the people, for them to worship the government and bow down to it by obeying their laws. This is nothing different than what Nebuchadnezzar did with Israel when he made the golden image. And he told them that anybody that do not bow down to the golden image at the sound of the cornet, the flute, the harp, the sackbut, and the dulcimer, that they was going to be thrown in the fiery furnace. It's the same thing as what King Darius did. He made the decree of there would be no worshiping their gods in 30 days, which Daniel was found worshiping his God, praying to his God, and was thrown in the lion's den. So when you look at this, laws is that being made against the people or force them to do the will of the system, this is what we are experiencing right now. If a lot of people understood this, they'll know exactly what's going on, that you have to put your trust in God and not in men. But what I wanted to get to verse 12 and 13, where it talks about how art thou fallen from heaven, O Lucifer, son of the morning? How art thou cut down to the ground, which did weaken the nations? For thou hast said in thy heart, I will ascend into heaven, and I will exalt my throne above the stars of God. I will sit also upon the mount of the congregation in the sides of the north. I will ascend above the heights of the clouds. I will be like the Most High. And the reason why I read those three verses, we talking about a nation that want to be worshipped as a god. That's no different than what Nimrod wanted to do in Genesis 11. And let's go there. I wanted to show you that for you to know and understand what we dealing with. A nation that want to be worshipped as a god. And let's start at the first verse. It says, "And the whole earth was of one speech and of one language and of one speech. And it came to pass as they journeyed from the east that they found a plain in the land of Shinar, and they dwelt there. They said one to another, Go to, let us make brick and burn them thoroughly. And they had brick for stones, and slime had they for mortar. They said, Go to, let us build us a city and a tower, whose top may reach unto heaven, and let us make us a name, lest we be scattered abroad upon the face of the whole earth. And the Most High came down to see the city and the tower, which the children of men builded. And the Most High said, Behold, the people is one, and they have all one language, and this they begin to do. And now nothing will be restrained from them, which they have imagined to do. Go to, let us go down, and let and there confound their language, that they may not understand one another's speech. So the Most High scattered them abroad from thence in the face of the earth, and they left off to build the city. Therefore is the name of it called Babel, because of the Most High did their convert. So when we look at this, we talking about Nimrod. Nimrod wanted to be worshipped as a god. That when he built the Tower of Babel, he said he built it as the high at the heights to reach the heavens. Right. And this when you look in verse 13, it says, "For thou hast said in thy heart, I will ascend into heaven, I will exalt thy throne above the stars of God, I will sit also upon the mountains of the congregation and the side of the north." When we talk about in the side of the north, we're talking about a nation that came from the north, which if you look up in the prophecy about Daniel, about the four beasts, and it talks about who they are. Uh, Babylon, we're talking about Cyrus of Persia, we're talking about Darius of Medo Persia, and we're talking about Alexander the Great in Greece. And if you look at the history about how Alexander the Great conquered all the nations, he fought against Persia and destroyed King Darius. Not only that, but they say he fought through the whole land and conquered many nations, right? And these people wanted to be worshipped as a god. Even if you read the story about Ptolemy during his history, that this is how Serapis Christus came about, how the name of JC came about him wanting to be worshipped as a god. And when he was not worshipped, he killed many Egyptian people. When Alexander the Great was in power, they conquered many lands in Egypt. So, with that being said, if you look at Daniel's 10, you see when it talks about the ram and the goat, it tells you who these two nations of people are. So, and it tells you about them coming from the north and the south. Let me see. Daniel's 10. And okay, it's Daniel's 11. Because it tells you that these people came from the north and the south. And what you read up in verse Isaiah 14 and 20 and 14 and 29, we talking about people that was in captivity. One man will rise up to fight against the oppressor and bring them down, then bring them into captivity. And then that person from that nation will rise up. Their people will fight against that nation and bring that nation into captivity. And they constantly back and forth. So with that being said, I want you read to you about the north and the south, and it tells you who these nations are, which what Isaiah prophesied in chapter 14. It says, Daniel's chapter 11, also I, in the first year of Darius the Mede, even I stood to confirm and to strengthen him. And now will I show thee the truth. Behold, there shall stand up yet 3 kings in Persia, and the fourth shall be far richer than they all. And by this strength, through this riches, he shall stir up all against the realm of Grecia. And a mighty king shall stand up that shall rule with great dominion, and do according to his will. And when he shall stand up, his kingdom shall be broken, and shall be divided toward the four winds of heaven, and not to his posterity, nor according to his dominion which he ruled. For his kingdom shall be plucked up, even for others beside those. And the king of the south shall be strong, and one of his princes, and he shall be strong above him, and have dominion. His dominion shall be a great dominion, and in the end of years they shall be joined themselves together. For the king's daughter of the south shall come to the king of the north to make an agreement, but she shall not retain the power of the arm, neither shall he stand, nor his arm, but she shall be given up, and they that bought her, and he that begat her, and he that strengthened her in these times. But out of a branch of her roots shall come, shall one stand up in his estates, which shall come with an army, and shall enter into the fortress of the kings of the north, and shall deal against them, and shall prevail, and shall also carry captives into Egypt their gods, and their princes, and with their precious vessels of silver, of gold, and he shall continue more years of the king of the north. So the king of the south shall come into his kingdom and shall return into his own land. And if you notice, they back and forth they first told you in the beginning of the chapter about who these kings were, and it talks about three kings in Persia, and the fourth king in Persia was far richer than that of the other Persians that fought against Greece in the north. And this was a constant battle back and forth with them going to war with each other, and they constantly bringing each other into captivity. Well, one person will rise up and fight against the oppressor and then bring him into captivity, and then turn around, somebody from the north will fight against the south. And they was always back and forth. So when you read Isaiah 14 and 29, it says, "Rejoice not thou, whole Palestinian, because the rod of him that smote thee is broken. For out of the serpent's root shall come forth the cockatrice, and his fruit shall be a fiery flying serpent. And the firstborn of the poor shall feed the needy, and shall lie down safety, and I will kill thy root with famine, and he shall slay thy remnant." And this is talking about a constantly battle back and forth, people, nations fighting against each other, killing each other. This is what the Most High is prophesying toward these nations. So when we see what's going on, we see that there's going to be war and destruction in the earth. We see nations being brought down in order for another nation to rise up. But what got me was verse 16. It said, "They that see these shall narrowly look upon thee and consider thee, say, is this the man that made the earth to tremble, that did shake kingdoms, that made the world as a wilderness and destroyed the cities thereof, that opened not the house of the prisoners?" They refused to let Israel go. It's the same thing of what Pharaoh did when God used Moses to come against Egypt, and he brought the plagues upon Egypt because Pharaoh refused to let Israel go. So with that being said, this is what we dealing with, what we seeing, and what we about to experience in the future. Because right now, laws are being made that go against the people's uh, beliefs, their freedom. Well, we never had freedom if you look at it, because the fact is, if you look up in Israel, we never had such thing as a birth certificate or a social security card where people keep tabs on other people everywhere they go. They got to submit these things in order to know where it is that you are located, where you're found. So we have never been free. The Most High tells you that. He shows you this because of what's going on right now. But the thing is, America had us believe that we was all free and that we all had rights, that we are able to do what it is that our hearts desire, that we could be anything we want to be, and we could live how we want to live. But if that was the case, then why would you implement laws if that was the case? That's what people is not understanding. So to get back to this, right? This man is bringing fear to the entire world for them to wear a mask, and not only wear a mask, to take a vaccine. And laws are being put in place where people are forced to take those vaccines because if you don't take the vaccines, it will affect your livelihood, but you not be able to work, you not be able to go places and take care of your family. This is what we are about to experience. So, with that being said, I just want to say, well, this is a short video anyway, so I'm like to thank people for tuning in, those that watch and those that didn't watch. You can find me again on Resurrection of Remnant, my YouTube channel, RTR Scattered Abroad, and like I said, on Facebook. And man, like I said, you like the information, comment, share, subscribe. I mean, be formal, holler at me, let me know what's going on. Tune in for next another video. Again, if I find something interesting, I would like to share with the people. Hopefully that we get a chance to dialogue. Let's man, chop it up and prepare for the last 10 days of the destruction of the world. That Israel will go home and will praise God and will be servants and keep the laws of our God, our Creator. I would like to end this video saying what David said to the Most High, Selah, praise Yah. And man, peace and blessings to brothers and sisters out there that want to know the word and want to keep the laws and finding out what it is they must do in order to please our God. That being said, I want to say again, peace and blessings. And man, y'all take care. Talk to you.